Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Space Game Junkie Podcast. I am always as your co-host, Brian, and joining me as always is your co-host, Jim.
Yeah, I'm taking spice leave in the spice hall. Totally.
There's gonna be a lot of Dune. There's gonna be a lot of Dune references tonight, y'all.
Dude, it's like it's right here. I can go to the spice leave. You pay a crew to take relaxing leave time in the spice hall.
That's true. That's true too.
It's pretty relaxing. Get
Also,
them all spiced up down there.
if you got a crew of all women, would they be the Spice Girls?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was trying to remember.
Sorry,
names, right? It was like
that's
baby,
a pun we
baby
haven't
spice, baby spice, the hot one. And then
there's
like
posh, baby, scary, sporty.
Wow.
And what's the last one? There's 5 of them, right?
Ginger.
Is it Ginger?
Wasn't it?
I think you're right. No, I think you're right. Hi, everybody.
She was the redheaded one.
Also joining us is your co-host, Spaz.
Hello.
And folks, we have guests this week. Oh, where are you guys from? Where are you guys in the world? I didn't get it. I didn't figure that out. Where are you guys in the world? Andrew,
we're both on the East Coast.
Oh, okay.
Indiana and Philly.
Philly, what up? Jeet yet?
I'm not sure Indiana is East Coast, but
it's close enough.
Well, you're kind of in between time zones too, right? So you could exist at any point in time or space.
That's true.
How far from Pawnee are you? Anyway, joining us from apparently Philadelphia, my old town, and Indiana are the Trese brothers, Andrew and Corey, to talk about Star Traders Frontiers. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, my pleasure. Because you guys, I want to talk all about your amazing early access period. Guys, if you don't know, Star Traders Early Access Star Traders Frontiers hit early access. Was it early this year or late last year? It was around that time. I think it was early this year.
Yeah,
right?
It was like right after, because we gave them the go ahead to launch, and then after, because they were on, it was January 2nd. We determined. So probably the week after that.
We got our thumb on the button.
After a pretty successful Kickstarter.
Yes, right. So late last year, early this year, the game went into early access. And then you guys updated it 60 times. Or how many updates did you guys do during early access?
During early access, we had 88 updates. We're our fingers on the button for update 100. We just paused to have this quick podcast.
So the game was actually that broken that you had to patch it 100 times.
Well, the thing is, it wasn't just bug fixes though. It's additions, it's balancing. Like these updates are never
fair. We don't count bug fixes. If it's a hot fix that's just doing patches, we don't actually.
Oh, really?
That
so
update count.
It doesn't get a number.
There are a whole bunch of patches in there that never got a number.
Really? I didn't know that.
Think about 20. That's how broken it was. Like,
oh my god. And folks, I apologize. Discord seems to be having some issues tonight. We've already switched servers, and I'm getting some internet weirdness, and our guests seem to be cutting out a little bit here and there. I apologize for that. I'm going to switch servers one more time. Hang on. All right, we switched servers one more time. Hopefully that'll fix it. Sometimes Discord does this, folks, especially on Tuesdays when the internet likes to take a dump. Because Steam likes to take a dump on the internet. So you're almost at update 100, and there were 88 just during early access. So that's what, about 10 a month? Roughly?
That's a few, yeah. It's a scary amount.
10 a month, yeah. We had a fun little average running. It was one every 2.91 days.
Oh my god.
This is how we've always done it. So for us, it's sort of how we've always done it. We're just used to being quick, and we have a very short playing cycle every week, and we plan what we're gonna get done that week, and then we just try to hammer out updates.
So is what you doing the art, or do you outsource that?
It's a mixed bag at this point. I do story and art, so I do some of the art, and then we outsource to a team.
Okay.
Yeah, guys, the audio is cutting out again. Hang on 1 second. I'm going to try this one more time. I apologize. This is ridiculous. 1 second, please. Oh, great. Now it's not even... Okay, there it goes. Jesus Christmas. Yep. So, I'm sorry. Discord is really being an ass tonight. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm looking at the art here, and like I went into my ship status screen, and there's so many icons, and I don't know what to do. There's a lot of stuff in this ship, but that's the thing with this game, right? Is it's there's things in here that remind me of like pen and paper role playing stuff, like when you're traveling and all your crew is making skill checks to make sure they didn't like leave their curling iron on and burn down the ship or whatever. And then whenever you get into the actual like construction of the ship itself, and I'm looking at the stats stuff here, and it's number heavy, right? But it just feels like this. I could go out and buy like a pen and paper role playing game. That's, you know, like, are you to that point? Have you written enough of this that you could just like throw it on paper and it's ready to roll? Because it sure feels that way. Although, like, nobody could probably juggle this amount of math, you know, at the kitchen.
That would be the challenge.
Yeah,
you'd have to roll 1,000 dice.
all. Alexa, roll all of the dice.
All of the dice.
Consult 700 in the dice rolling manual for the table of probabilities.
Oh yeah, that game was called Rollmaster by Iron Crown Enterprises.
Was there a game? Was there a game that did
Space
that?
Master was. Oh my God, yes. It's we won't go down that rabbit hole too far, but we called it Chart Master. It was like, okay, well, you're using a longsword, so open the book you open Arms Law to the longsword table, and then he's wearing chainmail, which is armor type 10. So you roll on column 10 of the longsword table with your percentage, and then see what number you get, and then you take that over to the damage table and apply, you know, like, well, what kind of damage is it? Well, it's slash damage, and then so you rolled over a 66. That means you get a critical. So you go to the slash criticals table, and then you roll again, and add the modifiers that came off of the other chart.
Dear God.
I'm not even making this up.
Dear God.
It was
that game was
redonkulous.
Okay. Yeah, there's a Tolkien universe set in that system, and it was very much that.
Yeah, the like.
How is that fun?
The gateway drug to that was MERP, which was Middle Earth role playing, and it was like basic D&D, and then you went up to Chart Master, which was advanced D&D. But they made a space game though that was called Space Master, and it was the exact same rules in space, and it was kind of a setting kind of like this here, where it was like not Star Wars, not Star Trek, sort of like a Dune Traveler sort of thing. You know, it was kind of doing its own thing, but you could kind of make whatever you wanted in it. Like there was replicants, there was, you know, everything that they could lift from sci-fi.
So guys,
well, I'll say the first game that Andrew and I made was a pen and paper board game. Like that's where we learned to design games, was making paper role-playing games for our friends to play. So I think a lot of the stability that you're kind of detecting in some of the things that we really like about computer role-playing games comes from a background of like playing games based on pen and paper, like the Gold Box games, and like you said, like Traveler games like Elite and so on. So I think we hold, you know, pen and paper games near and dear to our hearts, and when we make computer games.
Well, the thing that amazes me about it, just the little that because I dove back into it today, and I thought, yeah, I'll play a couple hours of this, and you know, I'll be ready to talk. And it's just kind of like just looking at the different screens and the tutorial stuff, like the last time whenever I played it, I got through that whole intro mission thing, and I haven't even hit that yet because I'm just looking at all the changes that went on here and how much more depth is going on. And, you know, I'm digging it, definitely. But once you get through that first mission, well, I kind of to the point of what I was going to say, though, the depth of the pen and paper role-playing thing is not just like roll a bunch of dice. You know, it's like we're playing FTL and you just find out, like, I shot the guy who died, you know what. But it's not just resolution mechanics, because you have these conversation trees that are in here, and it's not BS conversation like, you know, go and fetch me 10 rat tails and come back, and then I will give you, you know, this note that you can take to the other guy, that kind of quest stuff. But it's actually like where you have the arbiter coming on the ship, and it depends, you know, how did you treat her, and you have several options about how you can express your personality in that. And it seems that they kind of take note of how you talk to people, and then that will influence relationships down the road. So you're kind of
Absolutely.
like, you're building, you know, it's like you start out with a clean slate, and then you're kind of building a reputation of attitude around this person. And then as you go on through the game, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people treat me differently because of how I act. And not just my actions, but my words have consequences. So that's a lot of that sitting around the kitchen table, you know, like doing the actual role-playing thing, not just like beating orcs with dice. So I very much appreciate that.
I think, you know, one thing that good game masters do is they take notes, and they don't necessarily know where that is going to go, but they keep it in their head. And I think that's something that we're doing constantly, is recording the decisions you're making in those decision trees, and keeping in mind that maybe down the road, you know, Callaghan Fane's great grandnephew will either have an axe to grind with you or be your friend based on, you know, how well you treated his grand uncle 2 generations before. So there's a lot in those dialogue trees that we're just asking the player to participate, and your later stories will, you know, make that more significant.
Well, and it's not like a BioWare dialogue tree where it's like, do I say the good guy thing or the bad guy thing? It's just like, no, I got 4 things I could say here, and
they all feel really natural too. All the responses feel really natural.
Yeah, and it's not like, you know, I can choose, like, do I want to antagonize this guy a little bit, or do I want to kiss his ass, or what? And sometimes the ass kissing thing doesn't really get you the response that you'd think, you know, because they can be like, quit trying to ass kiss me. So, you know, so I like that stuff's going on. And it's a thing where I actually, like, whenever I play, I recently went back to Final Fantasy Online because there's a bunch of us that are playing it, and I have not read a single quest in that game yet, and I'm like level 30, and it's just like, oh yeah, click. What do you want me to do? All right, go get rat tails. All right, I'm off, and there's no point in reading it, you know, and I don't really make a decision. I'm just doing this delivery quest crap, and in here, I have a choice right off the bat. You know, it's like, the arbiter, hey, you want to get on my ship? And I can be like, yeah, no, I don't want to get involved in that. And I haven't taken that option because I kind of like that story, but I assume I can just take that option and just be like, nope, I'm out of here, and just ditch that entire quest line.
Yeah, and she gets a ride from someone else. She's a little salty at you, but she's still interested maybe in collaborating with you, but you have to seek her out again on a distant. So there's, you know, that's something that I think is important for Star Trader's sandbox nature, that you can just bail on the story at any point.
So does it give you opportunity to actually kill important NPCs that, you know, it's just like, oh, well, I just locked myself out of that chunk of the game because I killed that guy?
I think that's coming. Yeah,
there are already a couple of cases of that, though. Like Corey was saying, with some of the dialogue things, right now you may not see the future story that you're locking yourself out of. But there are big places where you can kill seminal characters. There's a lot of places, I think, more right now where you can help or hinder a character who will be recurring as the eras continue to be added. And there are a couple of places where there are characters who are wearing plot armor that you can't, though you can really kind of weaken their ability to take action by reducing their influence. You can't get rid of them yet,
right?
Because they're reserved for something they may need to do in the future.
Destiny,
indeed.
Yeah. Well, if they never get in a ship, I can't shoot them down. So.
Well, I wanted to. I kind of wanted to expand on this interesting idea because we're talking about dialogue choices, but it's not only there that you make interesting choices. It's when you talk to your crew as well. But one of my favorites is when you're doing missions and there are multiple ways you can end a mission. Like, oh, we'll do it in a bar, or oh, we'll have a parade, or like, how did that come to be? Because I love that.
And the only other game that touches anything like this is BattleTech, because it too is a crew management sim to a degree. And you know, it's like
fantastic game. God, so good.
Yeah,
I love that game.
As do I.
yeah. Oh my God, you do.
As does Spaz, to the tune of how many hours?
352 hours.
Several hours.
Oy!
And I imagine counting.
Get it?
Yeah.
If you could somehow get battle mechs into No Man's Sky, we would never see Spaz again.
That is a very, very likely possibility if that ever happened.
But how did you guys come up with all those fascinating choices for resolving a mission? And I like when they can go wrong. Like, I think I tried to have a parade and I failed my role and it didn't work out. And I failed the mission.
So this is our 8th game, so we've built mission systems and contact systems into a lot of our other games and have been doing this underlying proc gen kind of approach for a long time. So that actually comes from I think it's our 2nd game. Cyber Knights had this same approach to missions, that really a lot of the mission decision was at the end point and exactly how you wanted to approach it. And within that approach would be different skills, different abilities and specialties. And then it had a wide variety of success and fail capabilities, so that it avoids that like get me the rat tails feeling that you're there and you can say, yeah, I want to march up to the palace with a prisoner and embarrass them publicly. And I'm going to get paid more for doing that, but I'm going to also trade off a loss of reputation because I've kind of pissed in their face with this kind of public act.
I love that, by the way. I love that you can do that. I've so wanted to do that on the last time I had a mission.
The thing that occurs to me is that the system that you guys have for conversations with NPCs and actual like stories that are going on and the choice to participate in it or not. And if you don't, it's still going to happen just without your influence, right? Things will go on and the universe kind of moves forward and whatever. Now, if I could get you guys into Frontier Developments for an afternoon so that you could sit down with Mr. Braben and explain how to save Elite, because
it's too late, dude. It's too late for Elite. The universe is too big. It's just too big.
Well, yeah, but they just need to bring it down to the core worlds. There's only like 20
I agree.
They
need to cut out 80 to 90% of the game and make the other 10% interesting.
Well, no, I mean, all that stuff can still be out there, but if you want to actually have a meaningful conversation with somebody, well, here's those 10 planets, and they've already got that there because they got their whole faction power play.
Sorry, guys, we can't. Yeah. We're so. Oh my God, we love and hate Elite, and so it comes up all the time because.
Well, the sim side is great, and then the whole interacting with anything in the world
it's
is
just
the bad
so
part.
boring. So it's just so useless.
Well, they tried to have like here where we're talking about like you can decide you're going to march up to the palace and confront the guy or whatever, and it's conversation trees, right? It's not like we have to have a giant pile of assets and actually like render this out in 3. So you can just have that, right? And what they do is for their power play thing, it's like, oh, do I want this faction to take over some worlds from that other faction? Well, I'll pick up a couple of pallets of leaflets of propaganda. And then we're going to take them over there and just deliver them to the space station at that planet. And if we deliver enough pallets of propaganda, then their allegiance will flip.
If it's like an airdrop over Berlin. You know,
yeah, exactly. It's exactly that.
All it takes.
It's letter bombing.
Yeah, it's
certainly one of the areas where we ran into some of the most design challenges, but have found that the results have been the most rewarding.
They really have.
A ragged edge between the proc gen and the story, and that it's not easy to make them kind of merge in the story to deal with whatever the proc gen comes up with. The story has to kind of roll along with it. So we're very, very happy with that kind of the result.
So is it kind of two systems? Is it kind of two systems working concurrently? Is it like the story system that tracks your progress through whichever storyline you're in, plus, as you call it, the proc gen system that tracks like other quests and other contacts and things like that? Are they like working side by side to keep each other in check?
Yeah. You're probably right to call it a simulation instead of a proc gen. I don't know, but
that's fair.
So there is the simulation of the universe and all the contacts and all the factions and their global or galactic, brouhaha that they're having. And kind of overlaid on top of that is a separate story system. The story system checks stuff in the simulation all the time to be able to sort of make decisions. Like if you don't participate in the Arbiter story, what happens next? It needs to go and kind of like look at the simulation and figure out what the results should be. The result so players who may have played through that story, maybe the result always looks the same, but the story then goes and writes values back into the simulation. So they like trade over this pipeline information so that they can influence each other.
We like to think of it as a mesh between the two.
Yeah, because at least from my perspective as a player, it feels really seamless.
I just feel like he's got a entire room in his house that's like scribbles on the wall and pins and strings, and that's how this got designed. Because that has to be a hell of a web of case statements or
Google document diagrams. To be honest, so many of them.
I don't even understand most of it, honestly. It looks like the crazy person's wall of pins and strings. You just look at like, what? How many arrows are coming out of this box? And it's like, don't touch me.
So how do you database this? I mean, do you actually have some sort of database structure that's kicking in the background, or do you just keep it all in an object array, or what?
It's in a database. We have a data database that stores like the narrative baseline. We have a state database that stores like the current conditional filters for what's on and what's off.
That's amazing, because I mean, it always feels like something's happening in the universe, like other ships are going by and you're meeting.
Have you had like your favorite contact get assassinated by Pirate Prince yet?
No, not yet. Oh my god. My favorite,
because every contact, like Andrew was talking about plot armor, but every contact gets a turn. When you're flying through space, they're buying rumors, supporting conflicts, murdering each other.
What?
Helping their friends. Every contact that you see, even the ones you don't know, get a turn every few seconds. They get to spend influence, kill, and so on. You can see the news in the Spice Hall if you're like, what's been happening in the quadrant. You can see like,
is that what that's
things they've been doing.
Is that what that's about? Because
that's all the contact AIs.
They're busy little bees.
I love missions, and I love that the contacts are all varied and give you different types of missions. And so I just find, look, like I've barely done any of this story because I keep finding new contacts. Like, what do you want me to do? You want me to do spying? Ooh, that sounds fun. I'll do that for a while.
Well, and they're likely spying on a particular planet because their enemies lives there, and if they get influenced, they're going to try and like put a riot on that planet to block the other contact. Because if there's a riot on the planet, they can't take a turn, which is like one of the big goals of enemy contacts is like suppressing their enemies' influence and increase influence of their friends.
So wait, there's an AI game of intrigue going on while you're flying around doing things for the AI.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And the player doesn't really even need about it. It makes the universe feel a lot more realistic to us.
Yeah.
It makes the mean a lot more.
Yeah. So if
One of our early, go ahead.
If that contact gets assassinated, and you stop and talk to somebody that knew them, you know, does it come up in conversation like, hey, did you hear about Bob? They offed him, you know, or what?
We're working on some more like dialogue and story based responses to contact death. We've had some really kind of cool suggestions from within the player base that if you, for example, went to a world where contact was that they died, you could visit a gravesite, or just, you know, kind of recognition for people that go. Right now it's pretty quiet. You get a log entry, any missions they've given you disappear, and you can see about their death in the news section.
Like their friends are like grow a hatred for the killer. Like that AI will say, you killed me, therefore I hate you, and I will try to kill you back.
Wow.
But in terms of like dialogue trees and special like dialogue recognition, and that's one of the things that we continue to work is on that mesh, right? That's like the narrative aspect of the story blending with the simulation. Sometimes that can be a challenge because the simulation has so many rich states. Coming up with descriptive, readable English like Bob, Jenny, I'm sad, is kind of hard. We have a lot of mutations there, but that's something we definitely want to get to.
Yeah, one thing as a player, I look to, you know, it's like, okay, this stuff could be going on in the news. And if I'm just not looking at the news, or I don't connect things because it's like, well, I didn't know that guy, or I don't remember the name of whoever somebody was, right? So it would be really interesting. Like, and the more friendly of terms you are with a leader when you talk to them, like the more forthcoming with info they should be. But I wish there was a button that was just like, what's the picture, right? Like explain the landscape from your point of view to me. Like, who do you hate? Who do you like? What's going on? What are your concerns? Right. And you know, like to put it in Dune terms, right? Like if I like land and I talk to Baron Leto, and I'm like, hey, so what's going on? And he's like, oh yeah, well, we're leaving Caladan, we're going to Dune, we got trouble with the Emperor, and you know, these factions are against us, and of course, you know that we hate the Harkonnens, and of course, you know, we're worried about intrigue and stuff, and they've murdered a couple of our agents recently, is the last news item that you should have seen, or something like that, where it's just kind of like I can get an empire summary from each of these little empires, where they actually explain it like I'm 5, rather than I go to a stat table and kind of infer, you know, like, okay, these guys are -4 points to those guys, or whatever. If they would just explain it like, yeah, we hate those guys and we got reasons, but we love these guys. Mm-hmm. So if you go do missions for those guys, we'll like you too. Because that's just an awareness problem that I always have in games that have multiple interacting factions. Is I can never ask a faction like, well, where do I stand with the faction, and where does this faction stand on the map here? Like, who are your neighbors, and what's your relationships? And they never really put anything in to explain it. I guess because it's probably hard.
Well, in the Star Traders Frontiers, if you check the factions menu, you can see I think the challenge of making it that clear is that it's always changing. So the politics are very petty, and they come and they go, and the legal system, retribution justice, creates this sort of like short bubble conflicts, like solar wars, spy wars that pop up. They're not always consistently, well, there are some long running hatreds between people. Peace comes and war starts again. So that's a place to look, certainly.
Yeah.
And
but I think it's a really good direction that we want to try and go. We've been working on simpler systems like the crew. They can talk to you about their traits like, hey, I'm wounded, take me to the doctor, or I'm greedy, I want more money. They just kind of pepper you with that stuff. And I think that's kind of a precursor to something like the ability to really have a discussion with the with a contact where they say, "Hey, I just killed Bob. Aren't you me? Because I use assassins and I'm a pirate overlord. And how's that mission going?" Like, the ability to talk to them in the system is definitely something that I think would help further bridge the gap between narrative and the simulation. And I think it's a really potent storytelling aspect that potentially brings the simulation a whole nother level forward and further blurs the line between the things that Andrew is building in terms of narrative and the stories that the simulation is telling you.
Well, I guess the first thing that I would want to be able to ask one of these leaders is, you know, like, what is your win condition? Like, what are you attempting to accomplish? You know, you've got some goal. And then that's very informative about, you know, what they want. You know, it's like, well, I want to wipe out those guys. That's my thing. Or we're here just to get rich or secure our position or expand the empire. You know, what are these guys actually thinking? Like, what does everybody just want to kind of maintain, or are they looking at like influencing, or do they want to actually like invade somebody else's planet? Or like, what kind of goals are you setting for your AI rulers?
Yeah, definitely. It would be an interesting way to look at it. The traits that they have, you know, influence, but more than anything, their goals are survival and action of power for the most part. Some of them are more balanced towards survival than position of power. Kind of depends. If you're a starport mechanic, you're probably not running around trying to allocate yourself a new title or rise to the title of prince. You're more likely just trying to keep your starport running, additionally bring in some external help.
Yeah, because it seems like the game in the, you know, it's a thing that I've often wanted, is like, there's this living universe around me, right? It's like I'm in a game of Crusader Kings 2. There's all this politics and stuff going around, and I could stop and talk to somebody and be like, "Hey, what's going on around town?" And they can tell me like the latest gossip about their point of view politics. You know, like, power has changed this way, that way. This guy died. You know, there's these story events. Here's like things that you would have read in the news, but I can just repeat them because we're having a conversation and maybe you missed them in the news. That kind of deal that impacts us here on this planet. But it's not like I have to make those decisions for those people. I can just be aware that this stuff's going on, right? And they could, like, a lot of things in games where they'll give you like a rumor, like, "Hey, you know, there's like pirates over in this sector. It's dangerous. Be careful over there." And it's like, "Well, do you want me to do something about it? You know, how concerned are you about it? You know, is this like a quest thing, or is this just info kind of deal?" But it's the thing of like, if I'm, instead of being the leader, right, where it's like, okay, I have my kingdom in Crusader Kings, and then I have to survive against all the other people that are vying for power and all this family tree stuff and ascension and all that. I'm not the leader. I'm just one of the people that has to live in that. You know, I'm swimming in the ocean with those fish. And that's very interesting because you can influence it or not. You know, you can just sit back and let it happen. You know, it's like, "Hey, that's too hot for me. I'll just sit over here." But it's interesting to see like the political motives of, you know, it's like, well, this guy is known for wanting to take over territory, and that guy just wants to get rich, and, you know, that kind of thing. So if you're handing the AI goals like that, you know, I assume that you give them sort of a personality. That, is it a fixed thing? Like, this guy is always going to be that way because, you know, he's like Bob Rogers, and Bob Rogers is always this personality, or does that get randomized some?
Most of the story personalities have a fixed story characters have a fixed personalities, but the ones created by the simulation are a mix of 4 contact traits. So,
but they're mostly minor people, though, right?
I mean, that's all the way up to high princes and things. So even those characters are generated by the sim. And then, so they maybe have a high prince, and in this game he's corrupt, and he has an obsession with technology. but he's well respected because he keeps his corruption hidden, and he's
generous. A drunk.
Or he's a drunk or a spice addict or something. So those drive the types of missions he offers and what type of actions he will take, and are basically that combined with his type, his princeliness generally, and his faction, kind of that creates his AI matrix they're gonna push what he has as his individual goals.
So once I've played for a while and I've, do I choose an allegiance? Like, okay, I'm going to help these guys out and I'm going to help them win. Is there actually a win condition to these things, or is it just a perpetual, it tries to seek to balance itself, and then the universe just goes on and you can perpetually, because I look at like power creep, right? As I play the game, I get more money, I get a bigger ship. Eventually I'm flying the Death Star around, and at that point I'm kind of a kingmaker. Right, because it's like I show up with my fleet, and it's like, lay down your guns because Pirate Jim is here.
We had some pretty exciting, like, I don't know, imbalances in the simulation during, I think that was in Alpha Core, where there were some players who were finding that if they teamed up with a contact who had a certain set of traits, like they were violent and vindictive and dangerous schemer, and if they empowered those people and got them up to about 100 influence, that they would go on a rampage. We had players turn in games that had like almost no other contacts left in the universe, because these murderous contacts that they were serving were like killing everyone else. So we've tried. We have done things to keep balance so that the simulation doesn't fall off the edge of the map, But the game is designed to be an endless sandbox. So there's a lot to do, and your allegiance is probably more about your actions over a long period of time, as opposed to a single, like, I swear allegiance to these guys.
Right.
Allegiance is earned. It's not ever given. So you would earn that by blowing up 1,000 enemy ships or whatever it might be. And then you have garnered this reputation that's hard to lose and will stick with you, but makes you potentially hated by others.
Now, I wanted to ask about the different gameplay mechanics, because it feels like there's multiple games here. Basically, you have the space flying around trading game, then you have the space combat game, and then you have the boarding combat game, but then you also have the planetary card game, where you have spying or blockading or exploring. And I don't remember the earlier games having all those varied game modes. So how did you, like, not only come up with all these different modes, but get them to work together?
Well, a big part of starting the project was that we kind of listed out the professions that we wanted to make sure had completely full kind of core game loops. So pirate and spy, bounty hunter, smuggler, explorer, merchant. There's a long list of them, actually. Pretty sizable list. So, and then we tried to make sure, one of our design goals was to ensure that there is a big, meaty part of the game where you can be completely self-sufficient doing that. You can build a ship that's great at that. You can make a crew that is good at that. If that's all you wanted to do, you could truly just be an explorer and be mighty and rich. But if you mix some smuggling in, you might be able to sell your the things you're finding from exploring, like at a plus 25% profit or way more if you're good at it. So by kind of creating those starter silos and then making sure that they could cross-pollinate, I think is how we got to where we are today, which lets you can be everything if you want to try.
You can
but
be.
It's difficult to be a spy, explorer, merchant, smuggler, pirate. You're probably best to do, like, the bounty hunter pirate is a great combo, or the merchant smuggler, the explorer smuggler. There's some really good mixes, but in some cases you have 30 to 40 people on your ship, so you can build some specializations within that crew without sacrificing the other specializations.
Yeah, see, the RP thing that attracted me is, like, I can roll a pirate and I have all my contacts or my old pirate buddies, but I've decided to go clean. I'm going to get into politics now, and I'm going to leave my piracy life behind because I don't need the law chasing me or whatever. But yet, all of my contacts are these shady characters, right? So it's like, well, okay, so that's my personal way that I'm approaching the game is like, how can I use those guys to actually be influence in what I really want to do? You know, can I turn that into like a more noble thing? You know, because it's like I'm power seeking, not riches seeking at that point.
And it, you know, the way the mutation system for your crew works, I've got games from players who are like, I'm a merchant now because 80% of my crew is terrified of Xenos. And they tried to be an explorer in dangerous places, and they mutated so many traits that their crew just can't deal. They don't want to fire everyone, but they're all terrified of Xenos. They all have flashbacks. A bunch of them are crippled and combat scarred, and they're like, we've adopted a life of peace. For 50 years, we explored the wilds, and we made our wealth, bought this beautiful ship, and now we just trade, you know, we trade clothing, we trade fuel, we go around, we make new friends, but we don't go back to terrible wild zones, and we never press the explore button because the crew loses 50 more every time I go down there.
Oh my god.
We're just taking a little PTSD break. We'll be right back.
That's amazing.
But for the character that you start as a pirate, your crew will come out as a bunch of misfits, merciless, bloodthirsty, greedy, all these lovely things. And if you go off and live a life of peace and politicking and don't blow people up, those characters will mutate traits that mirror what you're doing. So you will.
So they don't get itchy and just say, "All right, I'm leaving." Like,
well, some of them very well.
Out.
Some of them may. The bloodthirsty ones, merciless. Yeah, that's what it is.
Might have to space a few.
Yeah, the ones that truly are like opposed to your way of spacing may desert on their own, or just lose so much morale that you just fire them.
So I seem to remember. Well, I seem to remember when we talked back in January, there was some discussion about mutiny. So can your crew just finally get sick of your shit and toss you out the airlock?
It's not that simple, but they do get very sick of your shit and will try to kill you.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yes.
Well, it would be interesting if they stranded you on a planet and then they take off with your ship, and then you can run into that ship later. And you know, it's like I've got another ship, and
you could probably make that.
Now I've ran into my old scurvy dogs.
You could probably make that pretty easy by not paying them, or
that's not paying them is a quick way to get to mutiny.
Yeah.
Well, stop buying fuel.
I think the marooning would be pretty hilarious. Actually, reminds me of that game Defect that we had on, where it's like you're gonna have your ship like taken from you, and then in the next combat you have to figure out. So you always build a ship with an Achilles heel so you can kill it because you know you're gonna have to fight it in the next level.
Huh. That was a great game.
Yeah, it was.
Now this is the 4th game in this series. Am I remembering that right?
I guess 5. 5 would be right.
5, because there was so there was the first mobile game. Then
some of them are pretty old.
Yeah, a lot of them are quite old.
Because there was the mobile game, and then there was the 4X game, and then there's Templar Battle Force, which is in this universe. What, is there another one that I'm forgetting?
Yeah, it's a really old mobile game called Templar Assault, which is a spiritual predecessor to Templar Battle Force. About 7 years old.
Yeah, that's right. You guys do have mechs in this universe.
Yeah. Templar Battle Force, by the way, y'all. Great XCOM-y fun.
Yeah, I'm thinking you're one mech bay away from competing with BattleTech here. You could just
the art team's working on it, so we'll get there.
Oh god.
Eventually. You heard it here, folks. Yeah. All right, I'll tell Gettleman to look over his shoulder. You're coming for him.
But I was wondering, is that why this universe feels so rich? It's because you've had all these iterations to build upon it.
I like to think that that the earlier games have really helped build out the lore and give us a solid foundation. We're able to make a lot of decisions based on things that we've already felt were successful players, which I think really helps. You know, sometimes sequels can trap you in the things that have come before, but I feel like for us, it's been really a positive to have that existing foundation.
Yeah, because I played so much of the first mobile game, the Star Traders Elite, on like 3 different phones. I've played the hell out of that game. And this game this new one, Star Traders Frontiers, feels like just such a natural extension of that earlier game. You know, it just feels like everything's bigger, everything's more, everything's expanded, you know. So it's been amazing to see the evolution of this universe through these games, is basically what I'm trying to get at.
I'm just impressed.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's been really fun to build.
Oh.
Yeah, the audio is getting weirder.
Oh my god. Hang on, I'm going to switch servers again. 1 second. Sorry, folks. 1 second. Let's try that one.
Are you guys on Wi-Fi or something, or like shy of bandwidth? I don't know. It's weird because we're not roboting, but you guys are.
Yeah, it's one of the trials and tribulations of doing it live, my friends, is that we get technical foibles like this. So apologies for the audio quality of this one. So have you talked to the fans and figured out like what's the most popular combination of career and stats that most people have been playing so far?
There was a fan project at one point to track it. We have our own internal numbers. Corey just dropped. It's quite a mix. We've seen everything from, we look at a number we call player efficiency as the game gets harder every turn. So not every turn, but like over time, as 1,000 turns pass, the difficulty ticks up. So there's this curve that you have to chase, and you can fall behind it. So for us, player efficiency is the player who is gaining experience, money, power faster than that curve. But we haven't seen any really clear pattern as to what is most successful for people. There's like true peaceful merchants, especially those that focus on making everyone like them, have been very successful. We also have seen crazy things like giant spaceships armed to the teeth with fighting men and women that have no weapons, and they only like sail up to everything and board until the enemy crew is dead every time. So there's a crazy variety of what people are up to out there. So we haven't seen any really strong patterns in the data that we have. We get a lot of save games from players who are always asking for them, and it is always pretty amazing to see what people are doing.
That boarding idea sounds kind of exhausting, but amazing. Like, but you'd have to make sure your ship could close to boarding distance fast.
Yeah, it's mostly done with like a medium-sized ship and a really good engine. But you've taken all the weapons off, so you've put all of those those slots in your ship are dedicated to things like nav modules and pilot modules, so that you can probably dodge more. I mean, I didn't build the ship. It's pretty crazy looking, but it definitely closes. And I can imagine, and they come with boarding talents. So these people like have a bunch of special abilities they can use if they win a boarding combat, like throwing a biobomb or like blowing out an enemy weapon. Some assassins can kill enemy officers or potentially even the enemy captain. So there are ways to kind of short circuit, make boarding overall faster if you're built for it.
That's true. I'm not built for it. I try to be a nice guy, but then I got people attacking me. It's like, I'm not trying to bother you. Leave me alone. But some people are mean out there. Some people are going to attack you. It's just going to happen. So you had about 100. You had about 100 updates so far. What would you say is the toughest update you had to make to the game between early access and now?
We added a system called save slots right before we went live, before the game launched out of early access. And for us, that was just difficult to decide that was the right thing to do for the game. We had always thought of the game as a rogue-like, and not providing any way to kind of try something, and if you fail, just go back to a save game and try again. And that was the tradition, has always been the tradition of all Star Traders games. But with this game, there's so much that goes into making a character, setting up your crew, setting up your captain, that we found.
Yeah, you're talking hours. You're talking lots of choices, and people want to keep that stuff.
Absolutely. So for us, it was like a little bit of a philosophical, more difficult philosophically than anything else to say that, you know what, there are a lot of players who want it, and they're right. Even I play with it now. So it's like one of those things, as soon as you have it, you're like, this is so nice. Why did we resist? So we're very happy to be able to provide that. It took a long time to make it happen. It was some very challenging engineering for Corey. But we were able to get it in right before the game launched. And it's been really well received. We're very glad we did it. It was necessary.
I too am glad you did it. I too am glad you did it. Yeah, I'm very, very glad. Because I'm a big believer in save often, all the time. If I can save manually all the time, I will. So I'm really glad you guys added that option. Oh, man. No, now Discord lost me. Oh, my God.
I didn't hear a break in you.
No, but I just dropped for like half a second and then came back. Oh. Like Discord lost.
Getting weird.
Discord is really acting weird tonight, you guys. I really apologize. It is usually not the. Oh my God! Now we're losing our guests. Oh my God!
I just had like a 3-minute reconnection. So.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Did it drop you, or did you manually disconnect?
I switched over to my other internet to see if it would help, but I'm still getting crazy packet loss.
What the what? Yeah, Discord
must sound better though.
Yeah, a little bit.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, but yeah, we apologize. It's either this. It's like this or Skype, and Skype is just horrible. So we found this is the best thing and the easiest thing for most people to use. But
yeah, this is usually great.
Yeah, we use this all the time, and it's usually great. But like some Tuesday nights, because Steam loves to update their back end, it just takes a absolute dump, and it makes no sense. And I know it's not me because it's everybody. Sometimes it's me, but this time everyone's having issues. So sorry about that. So now that the game is launched, I'm sure people have asked you this. What's next?
Well, we have a bunch of expansion packs that we want to release.
Seriously?
I assume I'm talking like a robot. Yeah, we have 2 that we definitely know we're going to do.
Oh, wow.
One is Orbital. It's another type of card game that includes like a bunch more jobs. During early access, we launched additional jobs. Like the Assassin and... what was the other one? Sniper. Assassin and Sniper. So there's additional jobs for the Orbital system. And then there's additional jobs and content for fighters. So we're going to be introducing carrier grade spaceships.
What?
So you can launch fighter wings, run, fighter screens in orbit as part of blockades. You can scout landing zones and orbital or scout exploration zones with certain types of craft. So you can get a scout craft or bombers or fighters or interdictor craft and launch them from your ship. And you'll be able to put officers on the craft so they can die, which is what everyone's really excited about.
I like how that's the reason. Yeah, I thought you were going to say they'll get a buff or something, but no, so they can die.
So they can die alone in the void in outer space, and you can mourn them and be like, I should never have let Jill go out on her own in that spider craft. I knew it was too dangerous.
It was made out of 80% crashium. What could have gone wrong?
God damn it, Karen. I told you not to take that shuttle.
So we're really excited about that. Those are things that were Kickstarter stretch goals. So we knew that we wanted to deliver the core experience first and then see how that played and then add these things that we've been designing from. We kind of designed them from the beginning, but knew that we wanted to see the game run through early access before we tried to deploy them. So Fighters, fits into all the different systems. Like Andrew was saying, the different silos. As we came up with them, we thought, how will Fighters fit into Explorers? How will they fit into smuggling? How will they fit into, combats, pirates? How do they fit into the spy? So can I get a sleek spying craft that helps me really maximize my spying results? Can I get a durable atmospheric shuttle that will help me pinpoint rich resource veins that I can exploit? So we've thought about how Fighters will fit into all of those different professions, and I think that's kind of a big part of our roadmap is those expansions. And then additional jobs, we have some plans to raise the level cap, and then there's a bunch of eras, like there's the Council era, and then there's the Plague. If you've played deeper into the game, there's like a spoiler alert, but there's a horrible plague. Can't say exactly where it comes from or why it strikes the galaxy, but
Zombies.
there's a plague. There's some bad cults that are on the horizon. There's some mysterious individuals sowing seeds of chaos. So the era system is really very important to us because I think it backdrops that living galaxy.
So at the end, the Elder Gods come back, and then everybody dies. But the winner gets eaten last. Is that?
Yeah, I mean the Terox invasion. There's definitely bad things coming in the horizon.
How many storylines are in the game? Like I've only seen the one so far with the with this Arbiter, but how many? Like I've heard there are other storylines. So how many are currently in the game?
Well, there's the big arcs, right? Like the Arbiter and the Plague. And then there's a lot of interrelated smaller arcs, like the D. Ravesh family saga of like the recovery of his artifacts. There's these smuggler cults that you can deal with. There are some HUNA operations that you can sort of get involved with. So I would say there's probably 20 or so stories of various size. We'd have to consult Andrew's diagram, and obviously none of us are going to be able to make sense of it. But part of it is they're all interconnected. So sometimes it's hard to say like there's 20 or there's 15 because there's a lot of interconnections. And then there's little things we call vignettes. Like if you've ever run into Edge Altman, she stows away on your ship. And there's some hilarious, I think some of the funniest dialogue in the game is your officers being like talking to her and she kind of scamming everyone on board into taking her on as a crew member. So those are kind of shorter. It's kind of it's a set of dialogue and decisions you make and traits that you decide if you want to have or not have, and then kind of you deal with her as a crew member or an officer. And that's kind of what we think of as a vignette. It's sort of like it's an isolated story that happens within the greater context of the game. So it's not like she doesn't give you missions. You're just kind of deciding what you want to do with this character. Does she fit into your plans? Do you want to keep her around for a little while? Or do you want to promote her to an officer and let this one-time stowaway become your first mate?
Whoa, that's really amazing. Because I mean, is that one of the harder things to do with a game like this, to balance the openness with wanting to tell just one story, let alone multiple stories? Is that like one of the biggest challenges of a game like this?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
you're fine now.
Okay. Yeah, apparently the internet is Something's wrong with the internet tonight.
The internet is highly broken because I posted in the stream chat. Yeah, it is. The memes are leaking, but like half the places that they test are dead right now. So there's some kind of big route problem going on.
Ugh, gross. Well, I think one of the big challenges is making the game accessible, but also varied and very divergent from the core experience. So we have a problem with too many storylines happening too often or too concurrently or too fast. Like if you read our Steam forums, there's a lot of people being like, I wanted to find the D-Ravesh blade, but I got distracted by this stupid smuggling cult, and then I found out that the D-Ravesh people had died, and I was disappointed that I didn't get to finish it, or I was helping the Arbiter and I didn't get to do this. So it's a challenge to balance the pace that players want it to go at and also make it feel realistic. I think Andrew and I both suffer some frustration in games where an NPC is like, I need the 15 rat tails. And you're like, I'll come back in 6 years. Like, you'll still be here, right? And he's like, yeah, you're the only adventurer that could get me said rat tails. Like, I will wait. Like, literally to the end of the game. And you're level 50 and you come back and you're like, you still need those rat tails? It's like, I sure do. And you go get them. And that to me, that often doesn't feel like it does the player a lot of service. Like, there's, it cuts both ways. Some players really like the fact that you come back and you're like, do you still need the rat tails? And they're like, that was my grandfather. He died ages ago. Like, who are you? But at the same time, we want the story to be accessible. So there's a balancing act there between throwing too much at the player at the same time and not enough, and making it mesh again with the simulation aspects. Because if we're doing our job really well, the player doesn't know the difference between the truly narrative content and the simulation content. And so giving them a good set of pacing. And one of the things we did a lot during early access was shore up the notifications, the logging, the scheduling, and the deadline knowledge for the player, so they have kind of a place to go and say, okay, D-Ravesh needs this in 2 years. Like, I'm not going to chase this rumor of an artifact find in this distant land because I know I only have 2 years. So there's a lot of challenges there in terms of, we're pulled in different directions.
But that's good. I mean, for a player, I think that sounds great. Like, oh, I was going to do this one thing, but then I got distracted by this other thing, and then the other thing just doesn't matter anymore. I think that's great. I wish, more games did that sort of thing. Like, I can only think of one other developer. Have you ever heard of Soldak games? It's Din's Curse and Drox Operative and Depths of Peril and that sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Familiar.
Yeah, they do the same thing where, there's a guy on level 12 of this dungeon. If you don't kill him soon, he's going to become the ruler of the dungeon and attack your town. So you got to get to it.
Mm-hmm. And you have a very finite amount of time before he levels up and becomes a chief baddie. Yep.
Exactly. I think that kind of stuff is great because it's you don't want a game to mirror life, but at the same time, you want it to feel fluid. You want it to feel like I have to make these choices that matter most.
And it's a trade-off, right? Because we as Steam developers, especially in early access, you live and die by your reviews.
Oh my God.
And there are players who love this. They love that baddie on level 12 and the timelines and the realism of it and the fact that it feels sort of like real life. And then there's people that say, this is supposed to be a game. I don't want to deal with consequences. I don't want to be on a timetable, arbitrarily dictated to me by some developer. I want to just play the game the way I want to play it. So it's a tough balancing act to try and provide, a bit of both.
Yeah, I guess it's the tug of war between, do you want all the events to be triggered by the player, or do you want things to happen naturally, and then if the player happens to be in the right place at the right time, then they have an opportunity.
Yep. A balancing act is a good way to put it. And our solution has sort of been to try and walk that tightrope and provide the player notifications and information so that they at least have a chance to say, I'm actively making a decision to ignore that. Like, I know it's going to happen in a year. I know I've got a firm deadline to go, I can visit this court within this cycle and participate, or I can, say whatever, I'm not interested. So it's been a learning experience. I think we've had some missteps along the way, and that's why we went into early access, because we really didn't know, 100%. We didn't have, a crystal ball that told us like this is the right decision for the average Steam player in terms of pacing. And we've made a lot of adjustments. I think we've probably adjusted almost 100% of the story timelines up or down based on player feedback and metrics. Yep. And some of it's like people will say, this is too fast. You'll hear this very vocal Steam forum feedback. This is too fast. And you'll look at the metrics and you say, 84% of the players are hitting it like well before the deadline. Is it too fast, or is this another issue? Like, these people they're not getting a particular part of the story. They're not getting it. The dialogue isn't making it clear, or are they just like an angry, vocal minority or whatever? So,
well, I guess you could give them like a time scale slider or something. If you just like a multiplier, right? Like, okay, everything is
how though?
Is
how would
2 times longer.
How would you give it to that one player though? I mean, if everyone, if the majority of players are hitting it when they're supposed to be hitting it, like,
right? But I'm saying, like, let's say I'm a little slower paced of a player, or
we've talked about.
But then you do something else.
Option.
Yeah, but then you do something else that takes more time, and do that other thing another time maybe, or don't do it at all. That's the thing about this game.
Yeah. We've talked about that, and that's actually something that was, I think, suggested by some players as well. I think we just sort of missed that opportunity, and when I tried to convince Andrew it was viable, he showed me this diagram and was like, you would have to change everything. Every arrow and line and pin would have to move, and it would be so. I think that may be something that that the next game we make, we very well may make a like world pacing difficulty option, so you can set it to like 110% of default, or if you wanted to just throw stuff at you like a cannon, you set it to 50%, and it's just like drinking from a fire hose. And I get that there's different players that have set it on both sides. As we expanded the duration of everything, there are players who have said, now it feels too slow. I don't feel this overwhelming sense of urgency, like I'm being crushed by the like merciless march of time. So I think there's people on both sides of it, and finding one balance has been tricky. I think maybe the next time we do it, we will make it a configurability aspect, but that would mean you
design it from the get-go, because if you don't have it at the beginning, then it's going to throw everything off.
Yeah, it's too late now. The ship has sailed, unfortunately. So next game, maybe.
Now I wanted to ask something about trading, because I love trading in games like this. I'm always a believer. Always have something in your hold to sell. That's what I always believe.
It's a good strategy, my man, especially in this game.
Yeah, especially in this game. But I wanted to know, is there any way to see, this is a very specific question, is there any way to see prices for systems I haven't visited? Like, can I buy a thing? Or do I have to actually go there?
Not yet. It's on the list, though. Absolutely part of the plan to allow contacts that are well connected and have friends on foreign lands can provide you with visited information.
Very nice. Very nice.
It is something we're working on.
Because I found this great price on food. I want to sell it somewhere. 3 planets so far. No one wants it. It's like, damn it.
Yeah, is there a way on on the map to highlight? It's like, hey, I have this in the hold. I want to get rid of it, and I know what the prices are, but do I have to click around to look at what the prices are in the markets, or is there a chart? Or because I'm not that far in, so I'm just kind of asking blind. Or is I'm a big fan of heat maps, right? So it's just like, hey, I've got this this product selected, and then I say show me on the map, and it'll show like red or green based on like it's, you know, buy low, sell high kind of thing.
Yep, definitely on the list for a feature in the owl is to filter by sale price and demand level for different goods.
You're making me so happy. I'm fanning myself. Seriously. This is so
I would
exciting.
like to see that same map system as a political map, as a heat map, right? Because it's like I look at the map, because the whole time we've been talking here, all I've been doing is playing with the map, because I'm just fascinated with it.
It's a great map. It's a great
very rarely
map.
does a game do a map with this much info, and then you drill down, right? Like, oh well, you know, Prince Phaon is here, and I can click on that, and then I can be like, you know, show me his known details, right? And then it's like the whole Crusader Kings list of everything about this guy. And I'm like, that's great.
It's,
you know,
it's wonderful. Seriously.
Yeah.
Love that.
But the thing that I wish that I could do, and like I was talking before about, like, can I ask this guy, like, who are your friends and enemies, right? Well, since I can't do that right now, if I could go to the map while I'm in this system, and then it would show me like friends and enemies. Like, okay, I can turn on like a political heat map, and it's like the people that are more green, he's more friendly with right now.
Oh, you mean like a line connecting the systems, or
not even a line? Just like you can just put a ring around the system. Even
I
like,
see.
Okay, that planet's got a red ring around it. He doesn't like those people.
So you click the guy, and then you click like friendly, and it would highlight which systems have friendly contacts. You click unfriendly, is highlight systems.
Yeah, because if I'm looking at a like a grid of information, and it just lists like the flags, right? And it's like this flag doesn't like that flag. Okay, but that doesn't give me spatial awareness when I look at the map, because then I got to eyeball around and look at, well, where are these flags? Right. So, or if I could pick a political faction and say, okay, what are all the worlds that are allied to this guy? And then it would be like all the worlds with that flag on it would light up, kind of thing. So it's kind of like friends, enemies, allies, like political
That'd be
map
fun.
Instead of just a star map. I don't know. I'm just thinking like
we love your map.
My attention span, like how could I make this explain it to me like I'm an idiot? You know.
Yeah, I think it's a great suggestion, and we've had some discussion about trying to do a visualization of like maybe a more standard kind of that you've seen in other games, like a contact tree where you'd see their face as a circle and there'd be arrows pointing to their immediate connections with friend and enemy. But I see what you're saying, that putting it, overlaying it on the map gives you a different level of awareness that's maybe better than just trying to take it out of the map. So that's really cool.
Yeah, to see it on the map, because then it's like, where am I going to fly next?
Because the map
and
is
then I
such
look
an
on the map
amazing...
and it's like, oh, clearly. Because it's just the way my brain works as a visual thinker is it's just like I need a sketch of like what's the landscape here. Okay, well, I know the guys up in the northeast corner of the map are this faction, and they don't like this guy because they all turned red whenever I clicked on that planet. So, you know, I can immediately identify like, okay, there's tension between whatever.
And we're not saying this because we want this to become a map focused game. We're just saying this because we love the map.
No, I do want it to be a map focus. If it could just,
you want it to be like Star Gemini.
I want it to turn into Railroad Tycoon in space.
You want it to be like Starport Gemini Warlords, where you play everything on the map. Like you didn't even fly your ship around; you just do everything on the map.
You know, Warlords is an interesting game for that. The only problem that I have with Warlords is a control problem, because the frigates are a little too zippy.
That's what I'm saying. You just do everything from the map. You can do that.
That's kind of how until you scale up to like the bigger cap ships that I find a little more controllable. But yeah.
Which game?
Starpoint Gemini Warlords.
Yeah, basically
really fascinating. They're finally done with it after what, like 50 DLCs.
They
just put out the last DLC. Yeah.
But I do not regret any of them. I bought them all day one.
No, that game is great.
It adds something amazing to, you know, because there's like the one DLC. It's like, oh, now you get to play as aliens, and your goal is to just murder everybody.
Yeah, it's
great. Or you can play as pirates, and
the
only way you can add to your fleet is by capturing ships, boarding.
Yeah, basically it's
and
like
you can do a lot of boarding.
Yeah, basically it's someone took Freelancer and a 4X game and mixed them together. That's basically what that is. And it's really impressive. And you can play the entire thing from the map if you want to. I don't know why you would, but you can.
The combat that I like, when you get a little bit of a larger ship and you don't end up like just going in circles around each other really fast. But the bigger ships that are a little more ponderous, right? Then I feel like I'm playing Starfleet battles. Which is beautiful.
Just do fire well.
I do.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I never actually control the weapons. I just maneuver.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
It's beautiful.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a very pretty game. It's a very pretty game.
Do you guys play gratuitous space battles?
Oh yeah, we love those games. We had the developer of that on 8 when the second one came out, like 3-4 years ago. Yeah, those games are fantastic. Those games are great.
Some of my favorites.
Yeah, I wish we could get Klifsky back on again too. He hasn't had a space thing for a while.
He hasn't done a space game since Gratuitous Space Battles 2. So it's like,
yeah, we did that automotive factory thing, and I never really heard how that turned out for him. I mean, it's like the game turned out.
Production line.
Production line. Yeah, I think it's still in early access, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I really like that game though. That's pretty clever. I like Production Line. I like Factory IO. I think they share a lot of mathematical ability.
I couldn't get into Factory IO. I couldn't do it. It broke me.
I tried, but there's a level of complexity that once I reach it, my brain ejects, and it's just like, oh god. So if I looked at the map, and that is a game about the map. That's for sure. Did you see the 3D version of that some guys are making? It looks exactly like Factorio or Factorio.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the name.
But it's like it's fully 3D in Unity, and it's like you can ride around on the trains and stuff. And I was just like, wow, I can't even believe that that's going to happen. So yeah, I'm waiting for that. But the Infinifactory is a good one because that's kind of a puzzle game that's a little downscaled from that, but it's a thing where you have to build things for your alien overlords, and it's kind of a neat little story in it. But it's very much a puzzle game about conveyor belts and stuff, an assembly order of things. Like you have to build a rocket. Well, you have to make sure the stuff gets built. But not just that, but it all actually hits the assembly point in the right order so that when it falls, it stacks. You know, like you got to get the nose cone last.
That game you were thinking of, Jim, is called Satisfactory.
Yes.
Thank you, Low Observable Goats on Twitch. For that.
Thank you for that name. I'm going to register that domain.
It's actually a great name for a logistics game like that. That is a fantastic name.
No, I meant low observable goat. It's got stealth paint on the goat. You got his username.
But guys,
there was another game like that had a lot of these like combinatorial puzzles. I can't remember what it was, but it's really pretty. I'm trying to find it in my Steam library. It's like all levers and knobs pushing colored discs together. It reminded me a lot of Factorio. So many cool games on Steam. It's just amazing. Like, I think Steam has really, over the last 8 or so years, just has become incredible. Just the number of games on there made by really talented developers is just wild.
How have you guys been doing? Have you guys been doing in that regard in terms of visibility and whatnot?
We made the front page of Steam for the first time ever.
Ooh, congratulations!
Early August. It was really. Yeah, it was really a proud moment. Like, I took screenshots, and I haven't printed them out and put them up on my wall, but it was brief. We were up there for a couple hours, but it was it was really fun. We've been on Steam since Greenlight was a thing, and to finally have a game that, you know, Steam felt like deserved a few hours on the front page it was really fun.
Yeah,
a few hours, that's like a miracle,
right?
It's like you. Well, they've toned it down now. It used to be like I got my 15 seconds front page. Zoop, oh, we're gone.
Yeah, a few hours
it
is
great. So much to do with your algorithm now. So for most players that logged in, they know a lot about you and they're picking what shows up. But we had people spotting it who were logged like on incognito browsers, going to Steam, unlogged in, and you can still see us in the featured list. So it was confirmed real thing. It wasn't just like because I opened Steam and was like, there it is. You know, you're like freaking out.
It wasn't like a personalization thing.
But I made that game, so of course they think.
So Steam kind of like analyzes your tendencies, and that would explain why I get a wall of hentai.
Yeah, they kind of do a Google thing where your results are kind of personalized to your previous actions. And what you own.
Yeah, we have to now that there's 1,300 games on sale this week. They've got to, they can only show you 20, and they want you to buy some of them. So.
And 200 come out every day, and
so that makes me wonder, when are you guys porting this to Switch? Because Switch is the best platform.
Yeah,
you have to get past the Nintendo heavies.
Everyone's going to Switch now. That's a good question.
Well, no, not everyone. It's only
a lot of people. A lot of people.
Like, yeah, but you can't just get your asset flip trash over there.
No,
it's
but
like you have to actually some quality. Somebody is making
I really hate
eyeball decisions.
I hate to use this game as an example. Orbital Racer did not great on PC, which is really sad because it's a great game. But it's now on Switch, and it's better on Switch. It has multiplayer on Switch.
There you go.
And I'm really mad about that.
Yeah, I think right now we're focused on our Kickstarter goals, which is getting it out to the iPads and the tablets and the phones and stuff. And then getting through, like I said, Fightercraft and Orbital Exploration. After that, I think we're going to kind of take a step back and think about what should our next step be. Should we look at porting to something like the Switch? Where can we find the best traction? Because Andrew and I both want to have a bigger budget for our game, and that means selling copies of our current game. So if Nintendo and the stars align and they feel like we would be a good fit for their platform, I think we would potentially move that direction. But we're really focused right now on making sure that we don't anger our Kickstarter backers, because we want to back us on our next Kickstarter. So
of course. You don't have to answer this, but would you say this is your best-selling game?
Yes. I mean, yes.
90% positive at the moment, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes. It's not our best-rated game. I think Battle Force is probably 95% positive. But we have more reviews here. Like, if you look at Battle Force, our peak concurrent players ever, and you can see this team charts, but our peak concurrent players was 98. Players at one time, and we've had 1,111 players peak concurrent on Star Traders Frontier. So a big improvement for us in terms of engagement with the community. But look at Steam, like, it's very exciting for us, I feel like, because 1,100 users, while for us is a huge number and sounds crazy, when you look at something like Frostpunk or one of these other games that gets on the page, they're like 16,000, 18,000 concurrent users. So I think we've got a lot to improve, but this has definitely been our most successful game. Early access went a lot better than we had expected, and then our launch generated a fair bit of buzz. And like I said, we got a little bit on the front page, which, I don't know how much that actually resulted in people buying the game, but as a more morale victory,
sure,
getting the trait mutation for the Tracy brothers crew of like fearless and brave. I think that really helped. And sometimes when you're working as a solo developer or a tiny team, sometimes validation from the market partner, from Steam, just that they noticed your game and they put it on the front page, even if it was just an algorithm, you feel like, holy shit! Like, sorry, wow, we made it. I mean,
it's fine. We're trying. We do curse around here. It's fine. I'm trying to curse less. I'm using the curse words from the Good Place TV show.
It's a good strategy.
So I'm trying to replace that with shirt. and it's actually slowly working. But no, we honestly, we couldn't be happier that the game is so successful, because I've enjoyed every one of your games I played, even though Templar Battle Force kicked my butt so bad. That game, that is a hard game, you guys. That is a hard game.
They come at you from every direction, those darn aliens.
They do, but it's such a good game.
They make those beautiful little splashes. That's the best part. They come from all directions, where you can paint the floor with their gooey.
So I guess the road to riches is like, when do you put in the battle royale mode?
Oh god.
In the future, all games will be Fortnite, Dark Souls.
I'll tell you a little future. I'll tell you a little story. There's a game called Gene Shift, which is this kind of top-down GTA 2 looking single multiplayer, really fun shooter game. And someone joked about adding a battle royale mode to it. And so the developer went to Reddit and said, "Hey, do you guys want this?" And like 2,000 upvotes for yes. So he's making one. And each round is like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing, because that game, even in co-op, is just a comedy generator. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it'll be a good time.
So, Battle Royale is finding its way into the strangest places.
Is Gene Shift like? Does it have powers and flamethrowers and stuff?
Yes.
Cars?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes, that's the one.
You can like do a power slide with the car and run someone over?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, that game's fantastic.
That game is so. We're playing it Thursday. We're gonna do we do a Thursday multiplayer game stream, and that's this week's game. So that's what made me think of it.
When is it on Thursday? At 8:30?
Yeah, same time as this. If you'd like to join us, you're more than welcome to join us if you'd like. Yes, Low Observable, go to this Gene Gene Shift. One word, Gene Shift. I'll post a link. Hang on. But yeah, I'm in their Discord. I'm trying to get the developer to join us, so he could take us on a tour.
I'm quite impressed, actually, that you guys got up to 1,000 and something simultaneous users, because there's some games that come out. Like, I'll check Steam stats before I buy something, especially if it's like multiplayer, where you're dependent on other players because other players are the content. And then you look at that, and it's like, this game's awesome. This and then there's like 5 people, but it's like, well, okay, there's only 5 right now, but what's their max ever? And it's like, 20. And it's like, God, what can I? Because there was a game, and they've since taken it off Steam, and I couldn't remember the name of it, and I can't find it. I hunted for hours for this thing one night, because it was just like, I need to see how that thing's doing. What the heck was the name of that? And it was a team-based, not really a battle royale thing, but it was a Battlefield deal thing, and it looked gorgeous, right? I mean, it was like really not like AAA, but for an indie game, it was really good production values, right? This was no asset flip and no Minecraft looking thing. And there's a milsim group that I play with, and I was just like, man, if I could talk to these devs and get keys enough to get these dudes that play Arma into their game, then it would look like, well, hey man, there's 20, 30 simultaneous users, you're going to get sales. Because if people look at that and they don't see any simultaneous users, they're like, no, I'm, $9, I'll never find anybody to play it with. But it's, unfortunately gone now. But there's a lot of games out there that look really good and they're fun. And then you look at simultaneous users or whatever, and there's like 5, 10 people. And I think, man, they must be doing really pitiful numbers for something that is not just like a quick buck kind of project. It's something, somebody put a couple years into this thing, and then for whatever reason, it just didn't get traction. And I think it's just too much in the market right now. So you guys, if you got 1,000 people, you're top of the pile of indie stuff.
I mean, we touched 1,000. That's our peak, all time. But I definitely feel like what you're saying. I feel for games that launch, like Islands of Nine was a battle royale that launched in July. Seemed to have a lot of promise. Had 7,000 users or something peak, and is averaging in the hundreds right now. And I think it takes 80 users to make a match.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard. Like, multiplayer games are very scary. I think single-player games have an advantage. Like Templar Battle Force, if people look at the Steam charts, they're like, oh, look, like 14 people are playing, but I don't have to play with those people. I can, I can go blast aliens whether or not there's people online or not.
Yeah, to me, the sweet spot is bring a friend, right? It's like, let's say the one game that'll never have it, Skyrim. If I could play Skyrim with bring a friend mode, so it's just like one of these guys can just log into my Skyrim game and walk around with me. They don't get any part of the story or whatever, but they can be my companion character, right? Like the Lydia chick that runs around with you. Just let them run her. That's it. That's all we need to do, and that would be beautiful. Because a lot of these games like Fallout 4, they put all this base building stuff in there, and I can construct. I've seen YouTube videos of people that have done insane stuff, and you can't share that with anybody. None of your friends can walk around in it. So to me, that's the sweet spot: is don't make it dependent on multiplayer, because a lot of people are scared. AI is hard. Yeah, that's probably the hardest thing. It's like you can get bullets moving around on the screen, okay. And then next thing is, can you get the computer to play your game? Well, that's a whole nother level of challenge. So at that point, it's like, we'll let other people be the content, right? We'll just put in good net code and we're done. But yeah, then you run into that problem because other people are the content. So there better be other people. But again, congratulations on actually having that many simultaneous people in the wild out there, because if you peaked at 1,000, that tells me there's, I don't know, tens of thousands that are out there, right? Because you're not going to get everybody all at once. So you got some good numbers going.
Hey, today's peak.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think the other thing is, like, the launch brought a lot of people back that had bought the game during early access. I think 1,000, if you did like back of the napkin math and you were like, they must have sold X, you'd probably be overestimating it, because the launch brought people who were like, oh yeah, this game in January and it was kind of buggy. What's going on with it? And came back on launch day. And I think that helped us get on the Steam page, is that so many people installed it or whatever.
Yeah. And it honestly, it sounds like the launch was not like the game's done. Launch is just like, okay, now it's like acceptable, stable, and we're going to put a whole lot more in this, because it's like we've fulfilled the basic game. Now we're going to go down the stretch goals.
Yeah, we publish a roadmap for early access, which we've never done early access before, so this was a first for us. But we kind of set a set of goals basically and published them in a roadmap, and we met the ones, like I think 80 to 90% of them, and decided that we were ready to transition into full time. And now we published a new roadmap that has like even crazier, bigger goals, and we're just gonna, march along that. So yeah, for us, it's definitely not a done thing so much as this game has reached a point where we're, there's a level of scrutiny that early access games get around, right? There were screens that were the first UI or second iteration UI when we published into early access, and we just had to tell people we're going to fix those, but they were all fixed, and we had delivered on a big set of features, and we were ready to go. So
it was better than anything I ever did. My UIs look like a 2600 game, so you're good.
We did a private alpha, and we knew at the end of the private alpha, after like 8 months or something, that we really needed more data. A lot of going into early access for us was, it was critical that we get player data from people that had the game. We love the alpha testers, but they've been playing it for months, and there's a certain like their value, not as fans or as members of the community, but as new players exhibiting new player behaviors, really starts to diminish. If you've played a game for 60 hours in the alpha and I give you a new build, you're going to play it like somebody with 60 hours. It's very hard for you to be like, I'm going to look at it with fresh eyes. So one of the things that early access gave us was, like Andrew said, there's some UIs, and there were some UIs that looked good, but we didn't know how they were going to perform when new players hit them. Some of them worked really well. Some of them we learned from the metrics, like, yeah, no one's even seeing this button, dude. That no one's clicking it. Like, no one is clicking it. So we gotta figure out a different way to present that information because it's not being used as it is. So that was important for early access, was us getting some new eyeballs on the game. And when we got through kind of that roadmap and we were able to apply the things learned from early access, we again said we need a new influx of people. We need, people to take a look at this and see like where we want to go with the balance and the content in the future. We analyzed, that month, and we published a roadmap kind of based on that.
Yeah, and you guys have definitely come a long way on the design language and the UI. Because, like I said, the whole show I've been screwing around with the map and just the planets screen and stuff. So your true win is everything that is a button looks like a button, and things that have notification have like those little bouncing notification things, which is I think in this I'm seeing a lot of lessons learned from mobile development actually, and just like dealing with a smartphone. Because you have the icons, and then, well, hey, my thing's got a little widget on it. That means there's notifications there, right? And that's kind of a universal language to everybody now.
Yep.
So it's kind of like you guys have spent some time on the phones, and you own phones, so you're putting that into the game, so it's a lot more natural to people. And like the only thing on the screen here that doesn't look like a button is actually the NPC over there. But if I mouse over that, I get a tooltip, and I know, I can click on that. So,
yes,
but everything
for all
else,
those tooltips, by the way. Thank you for all the tooltips.
Yeah. Oh God, so many tooltips.
Very helpful.
Love tooltips. Thank you so much.
And it's like the main menu thing, the toggle tasks. It not only there's a tooltip on it, but the thing is shaped like a double up arrow, which that's like. This is going to expand upwards, so it's kind of like the hamburger menu, but this is going to jump up into something more. All that stuff is successful, and I would say other developers that are out there that are wondering, like, what do I do with a UI? Look at this UI.
Yeah, it's a great UI.
It's getting it.
It's a great UI.
Yeah, and it wasn't bad before, but it is very much refined now. So I'm proud of you. On this.
Thank you, sir.
I do have one final question that's been on my mind. You say you're coming to mobile devices. Will there be any kind of sync between my save file on a PC and a save file on a phone so I can play the same game? Probably not, but I'm just asking.
Well, the save games are compatible. We do it today in testing. So I think it's sort of like where FTL was when it first came out, in that, like, hey, the developers done all the hard lifting to make sure that the save games are compatible. I think when it launches, we will probably be looking more at like Steam Cloud and Google Cloud kind of as silos, and then figuring out how to provide a third party like a Dropbox or a hosted cloud facility, because we know that we've done the lifting to make sure the states are compatible. But I don't think it will come out at launch, because we really know that I think a lot of our users are going to play the first time on mobile and won't have Steam games. But it is something that we think a lot, because the people that really love the game will say, well, I want to captain of my phone so I can continue my bloody tirade of piracy across the galaxy during my commute on the train. And I know that that's a niche that Star Traders RPG fit into, is like, I love to play this game while I'm on the train.
Yeah, or on the toilet, or definitely on the toilet. A lot of time
wherever you're stuck sitting. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of time on the can, trading back and forth. So yeah, that would be that's
You're
my little
ruling
wish.
the universe from the throne.
That's right. Exactly. Well, gentlemen, I would love
that could be the pitch for the mobile version. It's just a picture of a space toilet, and it says "Rule the universe from your throne."
Well, gentlemen,
I'll throw that at the marketing team. See what they say.
Even with our internet connection, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to talk with us again. It has been just a pleasure having you back on, because I feel like yours is one of the most successful early access periods I've ever seen, And so it was really great to hear your perspective as to how it went and what you did right and all that. It was really great.
Closing to other developers, I would say do a bunch of updates, respond to every Steam forum thread. I've seen other games, like I won't name names, but the developers aren't on the Steam forum, and
that doesn't make sense to me. That makes
doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make any sense. Then, if you're on Steam, you need to be on the forums.
And the worst is, I wish actually Steam could have, for early access games, they should have like a pulse on there where it's like a little graph and it shows here's how many updates it's been this long since the last update, because you can tell that because you look at the thing, but it's like this is their frequency of updates.
I would like
you guys
would be amazing at that. I would love
if they would have a chart like most active developers, on the front page. I think we could pitch this to Valve. They may love this idea.
Well, yeah, I mean it's definitely, because how many times have you? It's like, oh, this game looks kind of neat, and then you click on discussions because you're not dumb, and then it's like 5 threads in there. Like, is this game dead? Haven't heard from the developers.
Oh my God, I hate
and it's
that.
like, oh no.
What I would love is that for early access titles, you're not leaving a review. You're leaving your opinion, but it's not a review because it's not done. How can you review something that's not done?
Yeah.
I hate that.
I think my advice to devs that, like, if you don't want to get in there and get engaged in like a big discussion about what you're putting in, how things are going, just drop a damn screenshot. Just be like, hey, we're still working on it. Here's Visual Studio. It's wide open. Look, code. We're making it. Here's a new thing that we did. And just throw that up because it's an update. We saw it. You still log into Steam, and we're not going to start those "is this game dead" threads. So, because that will kill your game.
It's
because your
infuriating.
sales stop.
Yeah.
It's infuriating when developers don't even do that. Like, there was a game I was really interested in. It hadn't been updated for like a year, so I posted in the Steam forum, "Is this game dead?" And the developer in like a week came back, "Oh, we've been working on our second game. This one's not done."
Oh, I know what game that is.
This one's not done, you guys.
Know.
So I unwishlisted it. I so rarely do that, but it's like, what are you doing?
And their second game, they're working on a battle royale, and it's like, no, don't do it.
Oh, they are? I don't know if we're thinking of the same developer, but
okay.
We'll converse offline to find out if it's the same person. I don't want to say on live, but yeah, you guys.
Well, we really appreciate you guys invite us back. It was really fun.
Absolutely.
You said a lot of nice stuff about us and gave us additional ideas on like some visualization stuff I think is really exciting. So it's been a productive conversation from our end, and we really appreciate the invitation.
And
again, we appreciate your presence. If you just want to hang out, come back for no reason at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
And again,
we
even
apologize.
If you weren't
making a game, come back.
Play a little Gene Shift, maybe.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
Oh god,
that would be great.
Oh, that'd be great.
Show you my minigun.
I love the nail
as
gun.
As many updates as you guys do, I don't know how you find time to play stuff on.
Have you guys seen the nail gun in that game in Gene Shift? It's amazing.
No, nail gun.
Oh, it just you can't reload it. You have 75 nails, so you have to be careful when you shoot it, but it like lays waste to everything. It's amazing.
Does the guy go like nailed it? They could have got like John St.
Yeah. Say it every time. Say it every time.
And they added bots recently, and the bots have great names. Like there was a bot the other day I saw called Anicle Gardens, because they took out the bot.
That's
so
pretty
it's
good.
Anicle. Yeah, I thought that was really great.
Wow, I can start drinking now. That's
so folks, we're playing Gene Shift on Thursday. At our usual time. If we're lucky, the developer is in Australia, but he said he could come on if he's awake. And he said he's awake at all times of the day. So if we're lucky, we'll get the developer on with us. If we're lucky. No promises, but...
And if we're super lucky, we'll get the developer and these guys.
Oh, God. But
Gene Shift we'll just step back and let them shoot it out.
Gene Shift is some of the 10 best dollars you can spend on a game. Seriously, it's so good, and the bots are amazing.
It is so good.
And yeah, it's so good. Even these developers are selling another game that isn't theirs, saying it's so good. That should tell you something. So that's Thursday. Next Tuesday, we're doing an early morning show, 6 a.m. Pacific time, because our guest, the developer of Beyond the Stars, is, I believe, in Spain. So they are 9 hours ahead. So we're going to be doing an early morning show next week to talk Beyond the Stars. That'll be a lot of fun. That game looks fantastic. So
is that by Arkan Games, or is it somebody else?
Between the Stars.
Did I say Between the Stars? Did I say it right? God damn it.
Yeah, but Between the Stars, I've been playing
Between the Stars
demo, and it's really good.
Yeah,
really good.
I need to play the demo after this. Yeah, so that's what we're doing next week. It's another early morning show. Hopefully we can be awake enough for it. It's hard. Those early morning shows are hard, you guys.
You just gave me a great idea for a game title, because Between the Stars, you could call the game Star Jam, and it's about like that toe jam between the stars.
It'd be a sports. It'd be
By
a
the way,
space.
I just linked Humble Bundle has Gene Shift 25% off. So,
does it?
Yes, it does.
Oh, damn!
Amazing.
That's a bargain.
The best $7 you can spend.
Oh my god, it's so worth it, you guys. Even if you just play the
single
player,
if you're monthly, you get another 10%.
Yeah,
so.
even if you're just playing single player, it is just a fun time. But it's so much more fun with people. I've never heard Spaz laugh harder than when we were playing that game. When
Absolutely true.
You did some kind of grenade thing where you killed a bunch of guys with one grenade. It was amazing. And, like, you had a Joker laugh going. It was that maniacal. It was great. It was so great.
Chain reaction of a grenade destroying a whole bunch of cars. And the chain reaction killed, a whole bunch of guys in one shot.
It was hilarious. Which is on the YouTube channel if you want to go back and find that. That's the last time we played Gene Shift. So yeah, thanks for watching, folks. We will see you on Thursday and next week. Trese Brothers, again, thank you so much. Again, the game we talked about tonight, folks, is Star Trader Frontiers. It just left early access recently. It is amazing, and you should all play it if you haven't already. It's so good. So thanks for watching and listening, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.